All right, Jake, you want to take us into this month's theme for the movie viewing of our pleasure? Wait, what? Yeah.
I sure do, Zach. For the reason that March is named March, we have decided to do military/war movies for this month. And we're starting off with a classic. I think it's a classic. I've seen it's been parodied before, so that in my mind makes it think that it's more classic.
I forgot that this was one that was parodied.
Yeah.
Before.
So Platoon.
Yeah. 1986. Before I was born, before we were both born. So it's older than we are.
Yeah.
Stars, there's actually a lot of people in it. John C. McKinley's in it. You have not Matt Dillon. Kevin Dillon.
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen as the
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. Great actor.
Tom Berenger.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Tom Bergeron, who hosts Dancing with the Stars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a pretty full cast.
A lot of folks.
We're missing a couple.
Johnny Depp.
That's right. Yeah. The translator guy. Is that all he did in that for that part?
That
was the main
small
thing
role.
with that one.
Yeah, small role.
But he just done, or was it right before? God, I'm blanking on my Nightmare Before Elm Street. This was probably right after, huh?
Yeah,
so
I think Nightmare was like 84.
Yeah. So good for him.
Yeah.
It was. See, I don't want to say enjoyable because it's a movie about war and it's brutal and realistic in a lot of ways. So
see, that's the difficult part about this month for these movies. Yeah,
this is a tough month.
They tell compelling stories, and I think that's the proper term would be just compelling. They make you think.
They show how messy all that can be.
Yeah, and I mean we discussed multiple movies and multiple options, and I think that we've got a good. I'll just say this at the beginning of the month. You know, I feel like we've got a good range of movies where we're not just staying in one lane with it. And I wouldn't by any means say that any of these are like pro-war or pro-military. They just kind of show you kind of a day in the life of, different areas in time of what soldiers go through. And yeah, that's my spiel on it. But let's get into the, I don't want to say nitty-gritty because, war. But what's the tomato meter?
Yeah, let's go with that. So that was a good little quick intro into this one and this whole month that's coming up. Yeah. But would you like to take your guesses, or are you kind of over-guessing?
It came out in 86.
Yeah,
I'm going to say 86 for critics and 76 for... No, I'm going to go 89 for audience.
All right. Not too far off. 87 from the critics. Yeah, so they actually rated it pretty high. Audience was 93, so you're going in the right direction.
Okay.
So that might be your best guess since you've started guessing.
Yeah, we really should have kept track of that. If somebody listening wants to build a Wikipedia page for us and put the answers to all of these.
Jake's guesses.
Jake's guesses,
And then probably take from the answers at the time. Don't Google yourself because it may have changed. The tomorrow may have changed.
So you gotta go by the episode score.
Yep. So, all right, what are some things that you like to focus on? Do you want to do some likes and dislikes, or because you mentioned you had some gripes?
My main gripes aren't with the story itself. They're just with the execution of the story. Like, it's Charlie Sheen as the main character, and he's there, I want to say, a year, Like, that's my main issue with it. I don't know what our time period is here.
Yeah, it's
like,
a little bit. They set us up for it would be a year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got out earlier because there was no real mention of him being done.
And it's
soon,
not like they have
the
transitions or dates or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of cut.
Yeah, and they started with the 67, I think, was the only one in the beginning that we saw.
And then, maybe each of the, like, voiceovers that he has in his letter to Grandma is another time jump, but I didn't really focus on or notice that. Like, they don't the characters are written to kind of age, but I think physically, like, I couldn't really tell any differences between anybody. Like,
maybe that's the point. It was like an artistic decision of
could be
once you're in it, you're not. It's harder, which they kind of touched on with him counting how many days left, whereas they're like, you should probably count the other way or whatever, so that it doesn't seem so long, is kind of the feeling I got, like, to be a little more optimistic, just because they already know what it's like. He was fresh blood, right?
Yeah,
New
I mean,
meat.
it just felt like he was new, and then he was new for like 5 minutes, and then new guys are coming in, and now you're, one of the gang or whatever. Or no, he gets shot in the neck, right? It gets grazed in the neck,
like grazed in the neck.
And then he comes back, and he's all buddy-buddy with him. He's put in his dues, so to speak. So yeah, really just that. Like, the structure of it was weird for me. But, I mean, I don't hate Oliver Stone. I like a lot of Oliver Stone movies, and I haven't seen a lot of Oliver Stone movies. But, I mean, it was pretty... It felt like a unique story with, where a lot of movies can just be about the battle. It was more about the platoon and how the kind of civil war between the two sergeants kind of plays out.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think the first, I want to say almost half, so it's like a 2-hour movie, right? So like probably the first hour, it was a lot of setup to intro you, not necessarily because there's this character and that character, but just to get him sort of integrated into being part of the platoon. And when I say he, I mean Charlie Sheen's character. And then you see the division so I think there was a good setup with that of is it Elias?
Yeah.
Was Willem Dafoe's. They're off smoking marijuana and kind of doing their party, and the other group's doing theirs. And so that is, I didn't realize it till after was the two groups, right? And then they do some infighting as that progresses. So I think once that happens, then you see that continue to divide until then there's 1 or 2 times where they have firefights, and then they do kind of have to work together. But then, and
I mean, hey, anybody listening that hasn't seen Platoon, stop it right now and go watch it, because you're about to get spoilers.
Yeah, seriously.
So then we get to the point where, like, Elias and the other sergeant, I can't remember what his name is, are kind of at each other's, like, they start off...
Barnes?
Yeah, Barnes. They kind of start off at each other's throats. Like, they... there's a lot of tension there between them. And I feel like they've been there for... I think they said that Willem Dafoe was there for, like, 5 years or something. I don't remember. But they both been in country for a while.
Seasoned.
Yeah. So, they clashed a lot, and then it was just like a very... It kind of, like... I kind of saw it coming, just because, like, they do really good at hinting at it, and, like, when Barnes sees him through the bush or whatever, and then you think for a quick second, like, oh, maybe they'll, won't do it. And then Barnes lifts his gun and fucking just shoots
Does
him.
it? Yeah.
And
No one to notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he wants to avoid being court-martialed, and then maybe implicating the other members of his platoon.
That's why he did it, because he killed the...
Yeah, there was reports being filed, and so there was a reason, there's a motive for Barnes to shoot at him. And then if you notice the other members of his platoon. So wait, okay, now I keep thinking, because I don't really know the difference between platoons. Were they two separate platoons, or are they one platoon but two different like teams?
I think it's
within
one platoon, two different squads.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So the rest of his squad, let's say, right, of Barnes' squad, seemed a little worried about what could happen, which is funny because it's like they're doing the thing that they think is fine to do it in the moment, and afterwards they know they did something wrong.
Right.
Because you're not supposed to kill civilians.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
And it's just, that's what it makes it very interesting. I think when you said compelling is probably the best word.
Yeah. Like, it was a story that I wasn't expecting to be told in this setting. Like, I thought it was going to be like pretty much every other war movie I've seen, where they're running through the jungle. It's the horrors of war kind of thing. But they had this, little thriller. I don't even think it's thriller, just drama.
You got to see a little bit of everything that you would probably realistically see a guy putting his guts back in, arm blown off. Yeah. Using a dead body to cover you, to hide, like all those little things that...
Heroin. The guy doing
heroin. Yeah, just... So they do a good job of touching on every little thing that I would imagine. I've never served in the military.
Me neither.
I have no experience, but I imagine it's a pretty good, example.
And I mean, I don't know all the history here, so I'm just gonna say it. And if somebody wants to correct me in the comments, go ahead and do that, or leave a review on Apple iTunes. Apple Podcasts, I mean.
Yeah, please yell at us. We welcome it.
Yeah.
I yell at Jake all the time offline.
All the time. So I feel like in the 50s and 60s, most likely the 50s, because it was like post-World War II, we had your John Waynes, the big, come on, boys, let's go get 'em kind of attitude with war. And then Vietnam happened, and those kind of movies kind of stopped being the norm when it came to war movies. And Oliver Stone, I think, was a big component of just kind of changing the narrative behind the way we see military movies and the way they're portrayed now. And I think that Platoon is a good example of that, where it shows you all of the different angles, and that these are just, boys, and some of them are men, and, they have personality clashes, and even the big hardened, like, Barnes, who's, the alpha of the group with scars on his face, and nothing scares him, and he's always into it. He's an alcoholic that's just bundling it all in, while the other guys are smoking weed just trying to get through the day. Like, it was a very human interpretation of war, when previously it was, a little more romanticized and a little more Hollywood. It showed the bloodiness and goriness of war that I don't think that we had seen before. There might have been some other movies. I know he did, like, Born on the 4th of July, which I think is a Vietnam movie. Hamburger Hill, I think, is another one, but I haven't seen that, so I can't confirm any of that. But That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, Born on the 4th of July is 89 anyway, so...
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know how many war movies came out in the 70s, but I feel like they kind of held off for a little bit. And then, you know, to have one that comes out that's pretty gripping and human and real, and, you know, war sucks.
Yeah.
You know, and also, you know, weird timing for us to be going through our month that we had planned out to do military movies when, you know, there's kind of a war breaking out. It just really, you know, war's stupid.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And I think we can find these stories to tell, right? You know, I don't know if I consider myself like a pacifist per se, but I still find it interesting because I've always liked watching most, at least the popular war movies. So, because there's something about it that is intriguing. Is it just, I guess it's that if I was in that position, right? Just like any other movie, but this is, anything from even to watching The Patriot, right? Like that one's, you know, just what would have been like in other times that I didn't even live through, right? So
yeah, I mean, I think
like what drives us to do that, and I know some of the reasons, but if you could boil it down to something, I always go back on what it really is that makes us want to fight with each other.
Right. I think with these kind of movies, the hero hasn't become the, you know, the strongest or the biggest. It's become the one with the courage to not give up their morals in the heat of battle. I
found that interesting.
Yeah.
For him, because you see, Charlie Sheen's character was the rich kid that volunteered, right?
Right.
So that was one thing, and then he gets a little hardened at least, and then understands how. And then we do some time jumps. So then you see him actually shooting at that one-legged guy, right? It's just kind of crazy that he almost lost it, and then, but at that same time, that same event was the thing that seemed to make him kind of find his grounding again, back on the morally correct. I don't know. He
slipped, but he didn't fall.
Yeah, exactly. I was super worried in that moment. I thought he was going to actually do it.
And I mean, it makes you kind of wonder what Barnes and Elias were like when they got there. Like, it's different for everybody, you know, how much you can take and where you can get to. And, you know, Barnes reached that tipping point, and Elias didn't, and, you know, they collided. But yeah, I think, you know, the hero in modern war movies, which very well could have started with Platoon, are the ones that have the courage to kind of stand up for what's right rather than, you know, just following the orders and doing what, you know, not not like a fan of the war, not just a gear in the war machine. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Not
that the individuals are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know, they're not the ones starting the fight. They're the ones that have to go to the fight, and, you know.
Well, it's funny because they have to make these decisions, like, all the way up from higher command of, like, or even when there was, they had to submit the reports, or he told them to. He's like, yeah, we're going to do that, and we'll deal with it back at base, but I still need you out there. And so there's one giving commands, and you have to follow orders.
Right.
And then it made me look at, oh, that's right, they have to worry about resources, resupplying, and then resources are also people. So if people die, you're losing resources and you're kind of starving those out. Because, right, if you're fighting, you're kind of trying, the war of attrition is also people dying. So if you kill enough of the other side, eventually you'll also be able to win out that battle.
Right.
And then a war is a series of battles and firefights and all that, right? And then tactics from war to war have had to change and adapt with technology. Sorry, that was kind of a rant.
No,
but it's all that stuff, like all that accumulates and where we are today and the way we do stuff now.
And I mean, they even kind of went through it with Barnes and Elias having the lieutenant that hadn't really been there or been in any fights.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Barnes is giving orders instead of him, and he pulls him aside and says, "Hey, don't give orders to the men in front of me."
Yeah, I didn't even know that was the case until he said it. I thought Barnes was the one in charge. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
me too.
They did a good job doing that.
Yeah. So, and then a little heartbreaking when John C. McGinley,
had to stay again.
Yeah.
He was asking
so excited to get out of there, and then they just, nope, sergeants are dead, you're in charge.
Because the ones above you died, so now you're basically going to get promoted, essentially, and you're in charge of... Yep, I know, I was like, yeah, there's some stuff about that, because it's a movie, you're like, oh, I want this thing to happen, like, to get your comeuppance, because, the guy killed Willem Dafoe, and Charlie Sheen's character knew, and then he got to kill him. But then it's like, even though John C. McGinley was on the side of Barnes and in the same kind of boat, he was still like looking forward. But then he kind of I don't know if that feels as justified. Yeah, I don't feel as satisfied about that, because I don't know if he really did so much as just like was kind of there as you could say
a patsy.
Accomplice, but more of a passive accomplice.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. So that's, it gives you a wide array of not just the stuff you would see, but the relationships and dynamics. And so they did an okay job setting some of that out and building the tension, and then having certain things happen and seeing tension release. But then again, that first almost half was, I won't say it was slow, but they were doing a bunch of things, and then the time jumps that kind of pulled me away from it. But that second half went so quickly that it was like, oh, crap. Yeah. So, compelling movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad I watched it all the way through, because I think I've watched it maybe one time all the way through, but I knew some of the key scenes.
Yeah.
And I think I was also confusing it with one other movie. I can't remember right now, but yeah.
I'd never seen it, but I'd seen the box multiple times. I know the famous Willem Dafoe pose where he's getting shot.
Arms up.
The IMDb trivia on that is interesting. Apparently, you can see in his hand he's got a trigger that was supposed to set off his squibs that were in his vest that would be gunshots. But while he was stumbling around, he dropped it, so he couldn't do it. But he still did the motions
thing. I was wondering why it looked like he was but you don't see anything. So okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a doozy. And then this isn't our next movie, but the fact that Charlie Sheen can go from that kind of movie to Hot Shots. And Hot Shots Part 2, making fun of, is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
so he
had some
range.
Good movies and some, for being someone who I almost thought wouldn't be able to. I don't know, wouldn't be able to. I mean, he that 2.5 Men for years too, so he's definitely had a decent career. I see a thing on the Wikipedia page that could be a fun little fact that I wanted to share. It says in 2019. This film, Platoon, was selected for the preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. And it's marked as being quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's what determines whether or not it goes into that registry. But
That sounds accurate.
so it seemed worthy of that. It's worthy watching it for any reviewers who have not and now have been spoiled. Or if you're back from watching it, then let us know what you think about our little debrief on the movie.
Follow us on social media at Story Shack Pod. And you wanna tell them what we got next week?
Oh yeah, did we decide which one? All right, folks. So next week's movie will be 1917, which was made in not 1917, but yeah,
made 102 years after.
Is it? When did that came out in 2019 then?
Yeah, I think so.
I was just gonna double check.
No, maybe 2018.
No, you're right. No, 2019. Yeah.
Cool.
So that'll be fun. I have not seen that.
Me neither. It'll be fun.
It has a nice cast too. All right.
All right.
And that is all. Take care, y'all.
Bye.